Most people see a dream house and a garage full of supercars as the finish line. For Matt Armstrong, it was just another Tuesday. But what many overlook is that his journey was never a sprint. It was a brutal marathon, one that demanded everything he had and more. His transformation over the past 4 years reads like a fairy tale, but behind every chapter lies a sacrifice most people would never be willing to make. And while millions now know his name, very few understand where it truly began. Years ago, Matt Armstrong was a professional athlete barely scraping by, working around the clock just to survive. He would finish his 9-to-5 job only to race across town for his evening shift at an Indian restaurant. He worked there 7 days a week, every single week, pouring drinks and delivering food while his body screamed for rest. This was the hidden price of chasing a dream that the world told him was worth having. His rise was never about luck. It was about one heartbreaking sacrifice during the 2020 lockdown that set the stage for everything that followed. This is how Matt Armstrong really built his empire from nothing, and the true price he paid for his passion. The year is 2016. For a young Matt Armstrong, life revolves around one thing: BMX. This is not just a hobby. It is his entire identity. He is a professional BMX rider, talented enough to attract sponsors and travel the world competing in events that most people only watch through a screen. He lives and breathes the sport, spending every available moment perfecting his craft. From the outside, it looks like the ultimate dream. A young man doing what he loves, traveling to exotic locations, living a life that others can only imagine. But here's the thing about dreams like that. Nobody tells you they rarely pay the bills. The sponsorships covered his travel fees to get to the events, but they did not pay for a life. They covered flights and entry fees, nothing more. The reality of being a professional athlete, for many, exists worlds away from the glamorous image people see on social media. It is a constant hustle, a relentless grind of sacrifice and uncertainty. And for Matt, that hustle was about to become absolutely grueling. To keep the BMX dream alive, he had to get a job, and then another. His first stop was a local Indian restaurant called Spice 45. He was not walking through those doors as a customer. He was staff. He worked behind the bar and handled delivery driving, navigating dark streets while his legs ached from training. But this was not some casual part-time arrangement. He was there 7 days a week, every evening from 6 in the evening until 10 at night. While his peers were out with friends or relaxing after work, Matt was grinding, sweating, and serving just to earn enough money to be broke doing what he loved the next day. This punishing schedule gave him just enough daylight hours to ride his bike and travel to competitions. He would wake exhausted, train until his muscles burned, compete with everything he had, and then return to the restaurant to start the cycle all over again. But even during this period of relentless work, a second passion was quietly emerging in the shadows. In the car park of that same restaurant, Matt started tinkering with vehicles. He had always loved cars, and now he found himself doing small repair jobs for himself and his friends. He was entirely self-taught, learning mechanics the hard way through grease-stained hands, busted knuckles, and endless trial and error. Every mistake became a lesson, every success a small victory that fueled his growing obsession. This period was the definition of sacrifice. He was pouring every ounce of energy into his BMX career, while simultaneously picking up other skills without even realizing their future significance. To get accepted into BMX competitions, he had to film and edit videos of his riding. The sport demanded proof of ability, and that proof came through footage. So he taught himself how to use a camera, how to cut footage together, and how to tell a compelling story through video. These skills seemed minor at the time, almost incidental to his main pursuit, but they would soon become the foundation of his entire future. Deep down, Matt knew his current path was not sustainable. The BMX dream, as bright and exciting as it was, had a ceiling. Professional riders had short careers, and the financial reality was becoming impossible to ignore. So he made a calculated decision and secured a second job. Using his self-taught knowledge of cars and his growing understanding of social media, he landed a position at a company called Graham Goods. Now his schedule became, to put it mildly, completely insane. He worked at Graham Goods from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening, Monday through Friday. As soon as he clocked out at 5, he would race across town to the restaurant to start his second shift at 6. working until 10 at night. And he maintained that restaurant shift 7 days a week, even on weekends when his body begged for rest. Any spare second he managed to carve out was spent either riding his bike, desperately trying to keep his first dream alive, or working on cars in that dimly lit car park, unknowingly fueling the second dream that would eventually consume his life. Why would anyone work this much? Why would someone punish their body and sacrifice their youth for such a grueling existence? Because Matt had a plan. A new dream was forming, born directly from the exhaustion and limitations of the old one. His strategy was brutally simple. Work as much as humanly possible. Save every penny and buy property. If he could purchase a house, renovate it with his own hands, and rent it out, he could create passive income. That income, he believed, would finally give him the freedom to ride his bike and work on cars without constantly worrying about where the next paycheck was coming from. He understood that property was relatively safe. You did not need fancy qualifications to buy a house. You could improve it through sheer hard work and determination. And that was exactly what he set out to do. He saved relentlessly, counting every penny while his friends spent freely. Eventually, he accumulated enough for a deposit on his first house. He refurbished it himself, learning plumbing and electrical work as he went, then rented it out and refinanced the property. He took that money and, with his partner Hannah by his side, bought a second house. They repeated the process with methodical precision. Then came a third property. The plan was working perfectly. He was building a small, safe, predictable future brick by brick. But nothing about Matt Armstrong's story was destined to be safe or predictable. A single unexpected event was about to shatter that carefully constructed plan and send his life spiraling in an entirely different direction. Life had become a blur of property renovation and full-time work. Matt was still managing to find occasional moments for his cars, but the BMX dream was fading into memory, replaced by the practicalities of floor tiles and mortgage payments. The bike that once defined him now gathered dust in the corner of a garage. And then something happened that changed everything. Hannah had a serious collision in her Audi TT. The impact was devastating, and the car emerged as a complete wreck. The insurance company took one look at the damage and declared a total loss, ready for the scrap heap. Most people in this situation would simply take the insurance payout and move on, purchasing a replacement vehicle and forgetting the whole ordeal. But Matt looked at that crumpled metal and saw something different. He saw a challenge. He saw an opportunity. He made an unconventional decision. He bought the wreck back from the insurance company, determined to bring it back to life with his own hands. And then, for reasons he could not fully explain at the time, perhaps because of those old BMX editing skills still lingering in his mind, he decided to document the entire repair process on YouTube. He was not trying to become famous. He was not chasing viral success. He was just a guy in a garage fixing his girlfriend's crash car. But this unassuming decision became the moment the spark was lit. This is where the Matt Armstrong salvage journey truly began, though he had no way of knowing at the time. He posted the videos online with modest expectations, and to his genuine shock, people started watching. Then more people discovered the content and kept returning for updates. He was not just fixing a car. He was telling a story, complete with setbacks, breakthroughs, and raw emotion. Viewers became hooked on the journey, invested in whether this damaged vehicle could actually be saved. Matt discovered that he genuinely enjoyed the entire process. Not just a mechanical challenge of repairing the car, but filming the work, editing the footage into compelling episodes, and sharing his progress with a growing audience. There was something deeply satisfying about transforming destruction into creation while bringing others along for the ride. He finished the Audi TT, and the sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. Fueled by this new audience and their enthusiastic response, he immediately purchased another salvage vehicle, an Audi S5. This was not just any S5. It was advertised as the cheapest Audi S5 in the entire United Kingdom, and it needed a massive amount of work. The damage was extensive, the parts list was long, and the challenge was significant. But the channel was growing with every video he posted, and the momentum felt unstoppable. Then came a revelation that changed his entire perspective. He discovered that YouTube actually paid its creators. This was not just a hobby anymore. The revenue from his videos started to climb steadily, and soon he was earning enough from YouTube that he could finally quit one of his exhausting jobs. He walked away from the restaurant, saying goodbye to those endless evening shifts that consumed years of his life. This was a massive turning point. For the first time in what felt like forever, he had some of his life back. He was still working 9 to 5 at Graham Goods, but his evenings were now his own, dedicated to building cars and building his channel. The freedom was intoxicating. He had saved just enough money from his property ventures to pursue the next house. He was firmly on the path he had set for himself. Build a property empire, create passive income, achieve freedom. He had the deposit ready, the paperwork prepared. He was about to sign the final documents that would secure his financial future. And then, in March of 2020, the entire world shut down. The United Kingdom was plunged into total lockdown. Streets emptied, businesses closed, and fear gripped the nation. The government announced strict measures to contain a spreading virus, and normal life ground to a halt. Matt Armstrong found himself furloughed from his day job, suddenly trapped at home while the property market froze, and his careful plans crumbled around him. The world was paralyzed by uncertainty. The country was locked down, and Matt was stuck at home with nothing but time and his thoughts. This moment could have been the end of his story. He had a choice that would define everything that followed. In his bank account sat his entire savings, a deposit he had worked years to accumulate through sacrifice and exhaustion. It was earmarked for his next rental property, the next logical step in a safe, sensible plan. That money represented security, stability, and everything he had worked toward. But he also had something he had never possessed before: time. For the first time in his adult life, he had all day, every day, to do whatever he wanted. No morning commute, no evening shifts, no obligations pulling him in different directions. And what he wanted, more than anything, was to make videos. He was genuinely enjoying filming his YouTube projects. He could see the potential expanding before him with every new subscriber, every encouraging comment. The question burned in his mind relentlessly. Does he hold on to that house deposit, wait out the lockdown, and continue his safe plan? Or does he risk everything on an uncertain dream? He chose risk. He took every single penny of that house deposit and, instead of buying another property, he purchased a crash-damaged Bentley Continental GT. This was not a small bet. This was an all-in, push your chips to the middle, life-altering gamble. If the car proved unfixable, if the parts were too expensive, if the channel failed to grow, he would be left with absolutely nothing. No house, no savings, and a very expensive pile of scrap metal sitting in his driveway. This decision turned out to be one of the best risks he ever took. He poured himself completely into the project. He was not only loving the challenge of rebuilding a high-end luxury vehicle, but he was also learning advanced techniques and earning money along the way. The more time he invested in making videos, the more explosively his channel grew. Viewers were captivated by this audacious journey. In a world stuck indoors, desperate for distraction and inspiration, watching someone build their dream from wreckage resonated on a profound level. He hit 100,000 subscribers, a number that seemed absolutely insane to him. He was having genuine fun while getting a taste of what running his own business might feel like, of being his own boss and controlling his own destiny. And then, after 5 transformative weeks, his phone rang. It was work. The furlough was over. They needed him back immediately. This was the real moment of truth. Those 5 weeks had shown him a completely different life. He had seen that when he poured 100% of his effort into his own venture, he received 100% of the rewards. The mathematics were staggering when he actually examined them. Sometimes he earned more from a single video than he would make in an entire month at his regular job. The choice was clear. It was time to take the final leap. He quit, walking away from security of employment forever. With his old life finished and bridges burned behind him, failure was no longer an option. He had to make this work or lose everything. With his back against the wall, Matt approached his new career with the only speed he knew: full throttle. The gamble on that wrecked Bentley, a car far more complex and expensive than anything he'd ever attempted, proved to be a defining moment. The build was brutal, costly, and complicated. He rushed to complete videos, pushing himself to exhaustion, knowing that the end result had to justify every penny he had risked. And when the project was finally complete, the resulting content became a massive success. It was not just the viewers who noticed his work. Sponsors started calling, eager to associate themselves with his growing brand. Suddenly, major companies wanted to be part of his journey. They were not just buying advertising space. They were buying into a story of relentless ambition and authentic passion. The channel was transforming into a legitimate business. The payoff was immediate and substantial. He was no longer just a YouTuber making videos in his spare time. He was becoming a media figure with real influence. His story appeared in national newspapers. The tale of a driveway mechanic turned digital star, capturing the public's imagination.